I was about to confess to Axel when Hart palmed me off on his best friend Chase. A cigarette rested between his fingers, his head tilted, expression lazy. Hart's solid, good match for you. I looked up. His buddy was gorgeous. Wide shoulders, narrow waist, tall and long-legged. Standing there, Hart radiated one word: authority. I accepted with a smile and never bothered Axel again. Later, when word got out that Chase and I were on the verge of engagement, Axel came for me like a man unhinged. Serena, I was wrong. Can you not marry him? I smiled, shook my head, and pried his fingers away one by one. No. Axel and I have known each other since we were kids, loosely speaking, childhood sweethearts. 20+ years of shared history, growing up side by side. Yet whenever Hart speaks of me, Hart tacks on 2 extra words. Friend. The most ordinary kind. Hart has his own circle, packs of pampered heirs and heiresses. I also know that, though Hart's never said it outright, Hart looks down on my family. My dad had outrageous luck. Hart had been an ordinary line worker at an assembly plant until Mom, herself a knockout, spotted him at a matchmaking lunch and decided on the spot. 2 years after they married, I arrived. The day I left the hospital, Dad carried me, beaming, to a corner lotto kiosk and bought a ticket. Hart hit 300 grand. Part paid for a second-hand townhouse, part went into savings, part into a tiny startup. The next year the startup grew huge, and Dad became majority shareholder. The year after that the townhouse block was rezoned. Overnight I became a demolition princess. The windfall bought us a mansion in Riverdale. Living nearby, I met the bona fide golden prince, Axel. I fell for the arrogant sparkle Hart wore like aftershave, restless nights, no way back. His eyes could see straight through me. Hart watched my overtures with cool detachment, never making a move. By 24 my family was nudging me to find someone. I stared at Axel's unfairly perfect face and decided to declare myself in front of his friends. But the moment I began, Axel, there's something I need to say. Today everyone's here, perfect witnesses. Axel chuckled. It was as though Hart had already read the next line. Contempt and amusement flickered, uncensored, in his eyes. The cigarette between his fingers flared, died, flared again. His wrist stayed lowered, as if plotting the cleanest rejection. The private dining salon was silent, entrees just served. Axel didn't answer, so no one lifted a fork. They didn't dare look at him, so their glances slid to me, curious, measuring. Those stares weren't friendly. They wondered where I found the nerve. Suddenly the door swung open, shattering the hush. Axel curved his lips, lifted a brow, and angled his chin at the newcomer, lazy and smug. Hart's solid, good match for you. Serena, think carefully before you speak. I followed his gaze and locked eyes with the man who'd just walked in. Wide shoulders, narrow waist, tall and long-legged. Standing there, Hart radiated one word: authority. I was so stunned I couldn't look away. Friends of handsome men really are hotter. A bigger jolt than the first time I'd seen Axel. How had I never met him? Under everyone's stare the gorgeous guy took the empty seat beside me, smiled politely and threw me a lifeline. Hi, Vance. I'm Chase. I've heard you're gorgeous and funny. Could I have the honor of knowing you? Chase. I'd heard the name. Since kindergarten, Hart had been the trophy other kid parents waved at dinner. Brilliant and rebellious, Hart had picked a major diametrically opposite his family's empire and went abroad for grad school. After returning, Hart built a lab, filed patents, started a company. Hart could have ridden nepotism, but chose merit. Series B just closed. Compared with the Silver Spoon set, Hart was already legend. Reputed to hate crowds, why was Hart here tonight? While I blanked, a QR code filled my vision. I glanced up. Chase's eyes were warm, smiling. That gentleness rattled me. Mind empty, I opened iMessage and scanned. A soft ding, his avatar and bio popped up. Contrary to the aloof genius rumor, his avatar was a grinning Samoyed, sunlit and cheerful. His bio read 4 words: mind over matter. I added him. Curiosity pricked. And yes, his authority-grade face made even Axel at the head of the table look dull. I lowered my voice. You're Axel's friend? How come we've never met? Avery smiled. We're not that close. 1 year at Ravenwood, then I left for Stanford. My parents nagged me to mingle, so here I am. Hart leaned closer, voice almost at my ear. Meeting you, happy doesn't cover it. This time the words felt private, a feather brushing my heart. Staring at this brand new masterpiece of a face, I forgot why I'd come until an irritated cough sliced through. Across the table Axel stubbed out his cigarette, eyes storm-dark. Still slouched in his chair, yet his gaze bored into me. When Hart spoke his voice was husky. Serena, what secrets are you whispering with him? Am I not allowed to listen? Besides, weren't you dying to tell me something? Hart smirked. Go ahead, I'm all ears. Silence crashed over the room again. I had no idea what Axel was playing at. I'm not stupid. I caught the rejection and the cue. Hart'd served me another man on a platter, so I'd shut up. Simple escape from the groupie who'd trailed him since sandbox days. Well, thanks. To preserve my dignity, Hart'd picked a spectacularly convoluted method. The confession withered on my tongue. I finally understood. To Axel I was background decor, the most common flavor of friend. Hart'd even upgraded me to a hotter model. Oddly, the thought didn't hurt. I met his stare, gracious. Thank you, Axel. Your recommendation, hugely satisfactory. I'll Venmo you a finder's fee. I have plans, so if you'll excuse me. Watching his face freeze, I offered a polite smile. And since gratitude is due, dinner's on me. Ignoring the astounded heirs and heiresses, I sauntered out. Downstairs at the register a shadow fell beside me as a card slid across the marble. Allow me. The voice was warm, perfectly courteous. I turned, it was Chase, freshly added to my contacts. I'm a member here, 20% off. I can't mooch your discount. What's the total after? I'll transfer it. I can afford the bill, and I hate owing favors. Hart answered, a transfer feels cold. I skipped dinner, how about you treat me to a bite instead? Looking into those eyes, I nodded before reason could intervene. The lunchtime dining room was neither crowded nor empty. I picked a table with perfect light and a clear view of the street. Since it was my first visit, I handed the ordering to Chase. Hart asked about my food aversions first, then reeled off dishes like a pro. The little episode in the private dining salon had actually made me hungry. 4 plates arrived, each the right size, each fragrant and tempting. I tasted the sautéed greens and raised my brows in surprise, delicately seasoned yet intensely aromatic. I sampled everything. Every dish hit a note I hadn't expected to like. My SOSO mood lifted, and I opened the conversation. Back there, thanks for getting me out of that. Hart's Axel's friend too, yet Hart feels nothing like the rest. The others keep me outside a pane of invisible glass. Chase meets me without it. His calm eyes hold no scorn, no impatience, no condescension. I had an ulterior motive. In high school I kept seeing you beside Axel. I'll be honest, I had a bit of a crush. Then I left for my PhD, buried myself in research, and romance wasn't on the map. Running into you again feels like the universe nudging me. So, maybe we start as friends and see where it goes. His voice is unhurried, pressure-free, yet my heartbeat sprints. All I manage is a dazed high school. Why don't I remember you? The moment I say it I regret it. Back then my world orbited Axel alone. Chase reads my mortification and deflects it with a self-mocking smile. Then I blended in too well. Sooner visibility might have meant sooner friendship. His lightness is contagious. The stiffness between us melts away bite after bite. When we're done, we spontaneously buy tickets to the newest release. The plot is formulaic, a comedy that forces sentimental tears in the last reel. I grumble afterward, 8 out of 10 until that finale made me want to rebel. Chase laughs. Sure, comedy's core can be tragic, but if all you leave is heaviness, the trick's a cheap one. Outside, night has fallen. Hart asks for my address and chauffeurs me home. With the window down, the dashboard glow cuts soft planes across his face. In that hush my pulse skips. I lift a hand in a small wave. Hart answers with a faint, fading smile. Good night, Hart says. Inside, Mom swarms me like paparazzi. Second floor window, I saw someone drop you off. The Sterling boy. Dad's radar pings at the word Sterling. Hart finally developed manners. Remember, looks aren't everything. That kid thinks the world curtsies to him. Dating him would be a full-time job hoisting his ego. Mom joins the chorus, listen to your father. You're no weightlifting champion, so don't sign up to carry him. Love's mutual, not one-sided. Words I once tuned out now ring perfectly true. I grin and toss the grenade, it wasn't him. Someone else drove me. His name's Chase. Mom and Dad trade stunned glances while I float upstairs to shower. Hair still damp, my phone vibrates. Chase. Home safe. Had a great time, may I reserve next weekend? Axel used to text the same day itself, half an hour ahead, like Hart was granting an audience. Chase makes the contrast absurdly clear. I curve my lips and answer. Sure. Stance. Then. Saturday, 10 a.m. pickup, does that work? Perfect. Rest well. I queue up the latest hit drama. 2 episodes end on a cliffhanger that leaves me restless. Projector off, I burrow into the duvet. At sheep 108, drowsiness finally creeps in until the screen flares alive. 12:38 a.m. Axel, of all people. Hearts usually lights out by 11:30. Anything later is uncharted territory. 2 messages. First, a sneaked shot of Chase and me in the restaurant, clearly taken through a car window. Second, you seriously into him? I frown at the ceiling. Didn't Hart shove me toward someone else to shake me off? Now that I'm happily exploring that option, why the midnight interrogation? Perhaps this is his lordly reminder of the finder's fee. When I don't answer, Hart fires again. Asleep. Text when you wake. Once, these pings would have carried me on air for a day. Now they're just a nuisance. I remember my parents' verdict. Axel commands, the world obeys. I mute the thread and slide back into silence. 7:30 comes fast. Monday morning meeting waits. I head out without breakfast. Reception greets me. Coo, your DoorDash is here. 2 bags, 1 hot latte, 1 breakfast wrap. Sticky note. Ellis, don't skip breakfast between spreadsheets. Warmth flares. Thumb dancing, I message Chase. Thanks for fueling my morning. Hart answers instantly. Figured you'd prefer a latte to black coffee. That cafe's the best, trust me. Alex. Go crush it. The caffeine wings me through the conference room. The day flies. Evening darkens the windows before I notice. A family call summons me home for dinner. I park, glance up, and there Hart is, leaning against my garden gate. Axel. What on earth does Hart want now? Hart was leaning against the wall beside the garden gate. His white shirt was unbuttoned 2 holes down, dark hair a little messy. The suit jacket hung over his arm. Hart was still wearing the same outfit from last night's dinner. When Hart felt my stare, his eyelids lifted a fraction, revealing exhaustion Hart didn't bother to hide. Axel looked straight at me, the depths of his eyes dull and lightless. So dark they felt like a black hole that could swallow a person whole, emotion impossible to read. Why didn't you answer my messages? His voice was hoarse. When Hart spoke, a thick wave of alcohol hit me. My expression stayed calm. I was going to. Got too busy today and forgot. Hart frowned slightly, clearly disbelieving. You used to reply in seconds. I waited a full day and night, and you couldn't even send a period. What's that supposed to mean? Axel looked perfectly composed, but the uneven rise and fall of his chest gave away how furious Hart was. In front of me Hart had always been high above, rarely showing emotion. For him to show up at my door and interrogate me like this was a first. I didn't answer. I unlocked my phone and opened iMessage instead. I sent him a single period. Then, under his stare, I Venmo transferred $3,000 to his card. Forgot the finder's fee. Sending it now. I looked at him and joked, we've known each other forever, and you keep a catch like that to yourself? Some friend you are. Only after the words left my mouth did I realize. In barely 2 days I had calmly accepted the label friend. No more bitterness, no more ache. It felt as if, in that instant, I'd set down the boy I'd known for 20+ years and loved my entire youth. The guy who once sparkled in my eyes, the one I could pick out of any crowd, now stood in front of me stripped of every last watt of shine. I saw the arrogance, the callousness, the disrespect under the perfect packaging. From the moment Hart learned how I felt and casually pushed me toward someone else, the filter shattered. Hart became ordinary, nothing special. Suddenly, being regular friends sounded just fine. A cold laugh burst from him. Ha! It cut the quiet night like glass. Hart stepped closer, and I noticed the whites of his eyes were veined crimson, like Hart hadn't slept at all. An air of defeated dishevelment clung to him. What came out of his mouth was half sneer, half disgust. "Serena, did you decide Hart's better looking and switch sides? You're a fickle, shallow woman." I wasn't angry. I only found this Axel foreign. I used to think Hart was merely proud and aloof. Now I understood Hart'd always looked down on me. Watching him come unglued was novel, almost funny. "Stop barking, Axel. Is admitting someone's hotter than you that humiliating? You introduced Chase to get rid of me. Now you play the victim? Who's the fickle, shallow one here?" Hart'd treated me carelessly, dismissed my feelings as worthless. Right in front of him, I blocked his number. "Let's not contact each other anymore." Without waiting for a comeback, I pushed the door open. The second Hart moved to follow, I slammed it shut. News of Axel's and my falling out swept through our circle within days. Unaware friends asked what happened. I spared the details. "Incompatible values," I said. "Can't stay friends." One girl told me, "Axel actually cares. Introducing you to someone else was a test. Hart wanted to be sure your feelings were real." "A test?" I shrugged. "If Hart cared, Hart wouldn't test. Honestly, would you like a stunt like that?" She went silent. She knew I was right. Then she added that Axel had his reasons for introducing me to Chase. Back in senior year, Axel was the undisputed king of Ravenwood Prep. Top grades, flawless looks, and family money that made headlines. Love letters crammed his desk every week. Hart never cared about anyone's affection. Hart'd toss the envelopes into the trash and reject confessions without blinking. Except with one person, Evelyn, the star of the dance program. With her, his gaze softened. Hart'd lower his head to meet her eyes, spine straight, all lazy arrogance gone. Evelyn had poise, fresh features, long limbs, a white swan in any crowd. Everyone called her his sunken moon. And Hart truly treated her differently. Back then I crushed on Axel in secret, afraid a confession would cost me even friendship, and I knew his heart belonged to her. Those high school memories taste sour every time I revisit them. I consoled myself. Childhood friends can't beat destiny's newcomer, the novels all say so. After graduation, Evelyn went abroad to study dance. Afraid of losing her, Axel threw her a going-away party and confessed. To everyone's shock, she turned him down. "I like someone else," she said quietly. Axel pressed. "Better than me?" "Yes. Better than you." The girl who'd come to plead Axel's case told me. The guy Evelyn liked was Chase. The light bulb finally clicked. These past 2 days Axel had acted bizarre because, from his perspective, both Evelyn and I had picked Chase. His pride had split open. Hart didn't care about me. Hart just hated losing to Chase again and needed validation. Too bad I'm no longer buying what Hart sells. The week flew by, and the weekend I'd promised Chase arrived. Hart showed up groomed, fresh haircut, coordinating outfit. Clean, sharp, even better looking than the night we met, and carrying the faintest cedar scent. His profile was already exquisite. The fact Hart'd dressed for the date made my mood lift the second I buckled in. Hart handed me a hot latte and a bento box. "Bet you skipped breakfast. Snack first. I'll take you to the ocean in a bit." Inside the box, a foil-wrapped breakfast wrap and a handful of blueberries. "You made this?" "Rowan, Amham. Washed the berries myself, they're sweet." The wrap was still warm, delicious, and the blueberries, just as Hart had promised, burst with sugar. It was only our second time alone together, yet it felt as if we'd known each other ages. Hart knew my tastes better than Axel had in 20 years. The beach was crowded, but while we threaded through the swarm of bodies, it felt like the world had narrowed to just us. Hart snapped what I'll call my lifetime photo with the waves behind me, then led me to a seaside restaurant Hart'd reserved, timing perfect. On the ride home I posted a few shots on Instagram. Likes poured in within minutes. In the group chat someone added me. "Where'd you disappear to? And with who?" I answered straight. "Seaside. With Chase." The lively thread died instantly, no one replied again. Then Axel suddenly asked, "Did you have fun?" That's good. After all, I introduced you. If it doesn't work out, tell me, I've got plenty of friends." "Sure." In the past, whenever Axel spoke, everyone jumped to answer. The whole crowd hung on every word. But now the group chat froze over, silent as ice. No one replied. Hart seemed normal again, slipping back into the role of detached observer, just like before. When Chase dropped me off, it was already late. Before I got out, Hart said, "I know there's someone you haven't let go of yet, but could you give me a fair shot?" Hart looked at me seriously, his eyes bright with honest hope. I answered without hesitation, "The day I accepted your friend request, I'd already let go. Otherwise I wouldn't have taken your breakfast wrap, and I definitely wouldn't have said yes to a date. I'm 24. I'm long past the childish stage of thinking I can't live without someone, or threatening to die for love. Before I choose to like anyone, I choose to respect myself. Plus, I'm a sucker for good looks, and Chase's face is easy on the eyes. Of course I'm willing to give him a chance." Jordan, realizing it a beat late, asked, "So, I can court you?" I smiled. "Absolutely." I worked hard and shouldered the company. Things with Chase moved forward smoothly. 3 months later, Hart took me to a couple's restaurant. Over a gentle violin and piano duet, Hart made a solemn confession. Crimson roses reflected in the window glass. Outside, neon signs flickered and Riverdale's night skyline glittered as always. But all I could hear was my own heartbeat. In that instant I understood, my feelings weren't just about his looks. They were about the overt, detailed ways Hart favored me. Chase and I became official. We hadn't hidden it, so people found out one by one. Many friends congratulated me, including some of Axel's circle. Mom and Dad were pleased with Chase. They said Hart seemed steadier than Axel and joked that I'd finally stopped being blind. That night I got a call from a friend's phone, but the voice on the line was one I barely recognized. Soft, like a snowflake landing on a glove. "Serena," Hart said my name, spoken with care for the first time. "Do you really like him?" The air congealed. Though the tone was unfamiliar, I still knew who it was. "Yes. Really?" Axel gave a light laugh. "More than you used to like me." Hart knew perfectly well I'd once loved him, yet Hart still tested me, pushing me away with questions. And I hate being tested. Much more. Since meeting Chase, I've realized what I felt for you wasn't worth mentioning. A silence. When Hart spoke again, his voice had shifted. No more pride, no more looking down, no more careless drawl. It cracked, trembling. "Then, can we stay friends?" My tone stayed flat. "My boyfriend would mind, so no." Riverdale was already snowing in December. Outside, flakes whirled, but my mind was calm. Suddenly I remembered the first snowfall of winter in Sam. Between classes, students crowded the hallway, excitement spilling over. During the grind of senior year, even the tiniest thing could tear open a gap for freedom and romance. They said if you watched the first snow with the one you liked, you'd end up together. His gaze had landed on Evelyn. I'd only dared to study his profile from the corner of my eye. The sour ache I buried then feels foreign now. That irreplaceable girlish longing has finally been left behind in the river of memory. Axel, let it end here. Now that I have the best, how could I have any regrets? Axel had been in the spotlight since birth. Emery, the only grandson Grandpa Sterling adored, was gifted and proud. At 5 Hart met a little girl the same age. Serena, social butterfly type. The first time she saw him, her great black eyes shone with strange light. Like a cat spotting a mouse. "Wow, you're so pretty," she exclaimed. Though it was praise, it felt like mockery. Axel shivered, certain this weird kid had marked him as prey. Later, from the adults' chatter Hart learned. Even among the rich there are tears, and the Vance fortune wasn't built on business, just dumb luck. Serena's father came from nothing. His life changed the day Hart hit the lottery at a corner lotto kiosk. Taylor thought. New money, no wonder she's so rude. Every time she looked at him eager, focused. His skin crawled. Hart didn't want her around, it felt beneath him. But the mansions were neighboring, and the Vances, whatever their roots, now had money, status, and a headquarters. Joint ventures were inevitable. So their bond stayed lukewarm, not distant, not close. A notch above ordinary classmates, enough to call childhood friends. As Axel grew, Hart deciphered Serena's feelings. She liked him. The spark was in her eyes, the details, galaxies glowing in night skies. Yet his own reaction was tangled. Inborn aristocratic pride insisted they were different species. She was earthly fireworks, heart, above mortal smoke. Sam noticed another girl, Evelyn. Not old money, but Quinn, grades average, yet a dance prodigy. At the Freshman Arts Festival her solo ballet stunned Ravenwood. Like a regal swan she soared through the music, pristine, unforgettable. Axel had scoffed at love at first sight, until she gave him an answer, a likeness. She was as singular, cool, and luminous as Heart. They belonged together. Heart began tracking her competitions, curated chance meetings, and to keep Evelyn from misunderstanding, Heart even distanced himself from Serena. Heart ignored her disappointment. When asked, Heart'd shrug with detached courtesy. Serena and me? Just friends. Feeling her crestfallen gaze, Axel flicked away the odd pang. You don't fake love just to play house. The twist came in Sam. A transfer student stole every scrap of Axel's limelight. Chase of Riverdale, face so aggressively handsome it hit like a fist. Axel hated him on sight. Same gut revulsion Hearted felt for Serena, reasonless. Chase aced classes, crushed Olympiads. On his first monthly exam Heart booted Axel out of the top 3. For the first time Axel placed 4th. A few points that felt like a canyon. From then on, Chase hung over him like storm clouds. Chase was the perpetual third, flanked by a goddess-level girl and a god-level guy who together formed an unbreakable scholastic lock at the top. The three of them clung to their rungs with microscopic point spreads, making the boy they'd nudged out, Axel, look like a spare part. In looks, height, and report card decimals, Axel was always half a step behind. Axel hated it. A little prince who had been orbited by satellites since birth, Heart couldn't stomach being upstaged. So, when a pickup basketball game between their two advisories was knotted at the buzzer, Axel made the split-second call Heart would regret for the rest of his life. 1-on-1. Heart lost, and it wasn't close. Chase's engine had more torque, his jump shot more net splash, every move looked choreographed. The crowd oohed like they were watching an all-star clip. For the first time in his life, Axel tasted real, metallic defeat. But when Heart turned toward the bleachers, Heart spotted Serena in the swarm. She'd finally grown into her face radiant, movie-trailer gorgeous, and when his eyes found hers she flashed him the sunniest, softest smile. The sting in his ribs evaporated like mist. Heart walked over, borrowed the bottle she was holding, and chugged. The water had no taste, yet it felt syrupy sweet on his tongue. At last, Hearted found one scoreboard where Hearted beaten Chase. So what if Hearted lost the game? Serena had still brought the bottle only for him. That night, Chase friended him from the junior class group chat. No hello, no emoji. Chase, what's the name of the girl who handed you water? A primal mine flare shot through Axel. Axel, why do you care? Chase, just curious. She your girl, or just a friend? Axel's fingers flew. Axel, me, like her? Good one. Strictly friends. Chase's reply pinged back, cryptic, good to know. After that, Chase kept initiating, let's be friends, let's run playlists, let's game. Axel never flat out refused. The truce felt neither hostile nor genuine. Heart disliked the guy who outranked him everywhere, and every encounter left a burr under his skin. Luckily, Chase was already sprinting toward college apps, and their friendship barely lasted the year before Sam was accepted early overseas. High school ended in a blur. Graduation went off without a hitch. With Chase's cloud drifting across the Atlantic, Axel once again became the solar system's golden center. Serena orbited faithfully, late-night FaceTimes, surprise lattes, front row seats at his lacrosse finals. Heart assumed the arrangement was permanent. Her heart felt like a lifelong warranty. Occasionally Heart even thought, maybe I should throw her a bone after all, she's basically family. Then the cloud rolled back in. Chase returned stateside with media fanfare, patent millionaire, Stanford PhD, founder of a bleeding-edge startup. The grown-ups clucked, see, this is how you adult, while Axel felt the old shadow slap over him, damp and cold. Heart decided to cut it off at the pass. The night Serena planned to confess, Heart intercepted her under the fairy-lit pergola. Half smiling, half serious, Heart tilted his chin toward the doorway where Chase had just stepped in. Heart's decent. You two would look cute together. Axel figured the stunt would reboot her compass. She'd pivot back to him, humbled. Then hearted graciously upgrade her to girlfriend status. But Serena's eyes dimmed like someone had hit the lights from inside. Still, she pulled out her phone, scanned Chase's QR code, and dove into whispered small talk as if the rest of the terrace had vanished. For the first time, Axel sensed a chunk of his own heart chip away. Later, the wedding invitations arrived, heavy cream stock, gold foil calligraphy. Chase, Serena cordially invite. His parents got one, so did half their social set. Axel's mailbox stayed empty. Hart tried to ask her why, but her number was landfill. Last time Hearted borrowed a buddy's phone, now even his friends had wandered out of his orbit, gravity reversed. Hart drank himself stupid, then zombie walked to her mansion at 2 a.m. and howled at the moon like a cliché. When her Tesla finally whispered up the drive, she floated out in a cloud of rose-gold happiness, arms full of florist-perfect red roses. Drunk as Hart was, Axel's mind stuttered. When did she get this beautiful? A rueful smirk tugged at his lips, his bangs-screened eyes already bruised by regret. Hart seized her wrist, voice cracking. Serena, I was wrong. Don't marry him, okay? She smiled and shook her head, peeling his fingers off one by one. Sorry. The answer's no. On her wedding day, Riverdale's first snowfall of winter blanketed the slate roofs and boxwood hedges. Axel stood outside the church, breath fogging, asking himself for the 100th time, if I'd kept my mouth shut that night, would the tux waiting at the altar bear my name? No answer came. Cowards who dodge their own hearts never win, and they never get a happy ending. Thanks for listening. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this story? If you liked the video, smash the like button and share it with your friends. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales. See you next time.